from Microbe TV. This is Q&A with A&V. I'm Vincent Racaniello, and joining me tonight from New York, Amy Rosenfeld. Hello, Amy.
Hello, Vincent. How are you today?
I'm just chipper.
That's good. Okay, so
What's up?
apparently I'm chopped liver. Vanity Nutrition. Hello at Vincent Racaniello. I'm chopped liver.
No, you're not chopped liver. Vanity's just saying hello to me. Hello, Vanity. Thank you for moderating. Say hello to Amy, please, so she doesn't
No, that's okay. Forget it.
what would be the word? Insulted? No, it's not insulted, but
Forget it. We need to move on to important information now. You want to go first with big news, or you want me to go first with even bigger news?
I want you to go first with even bigger news.
Okay, we got big news tonight. Tomorrow is Animal Party Jen's son's 11th birthday. We should say happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jen.
Jen's son, 11. Animal Party 2.
I didn't see her yet here.
She'll be here.
She's probably busy planning the party.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I thought you had some other news. We have to wait more for your other news.
This was big news. Other news,
But I have to say, Amy has a last day in the lab already. May 25th, right?
Yes.
So we've been cleaning up the last day in the lab.
Yep.
Very sad. Very sad. I will miss Amy, but she will do great on her own. She's going to do great. And when you guys find out where she's going, you're going to be very happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, where's your second tier news?
Okay, so as many of you know, I was in Switzerland, Zurich, for a few days to receive the Richard Ernst Prize. Richard Ernst was a physical chemist who, along with two others, developed a technology that was needed for the development of magnetic resonance. What does the I stand for?
Imaging.
Imaging. What an idiot I am. And so the committee decided to... So Ernst had this passion about scientists communicating with the public. And so he set up a lecture series which would recruit lecturers that did that. And, you know, previous recipients have been Michel Charpentier and Steve Chen. Is that the physics guy? Or Chu?
Yes.
Stephen Chu, sorry.
And also the UN, the Secretary
Kofi
General.
Annan.
Kofi Annan.
And they actually picked me in December of 2019 for the podcast and the lectures and all that. So it's pretty cool that they did it before COVID. They already saw the value. And so it is, unfortunately, Richard died last year, which is too bad because I would have loved to have met him. But they picked me, and I went over and gave a lecture. I received the medal. I'll show you some pictures. And I was very honored because they're very happy that I came and that they love to talk. There are many TWIV fans in the audience, as you might expect. And after the lecture, there was a little reception outside. I was surrounded by students who listened to TWIV and wanted to ask questions. And they told me I'll probably be invited to Barron next year to do a TWIV, which is cool. And then we went to dinner on the rooftop restaurant of this building. You know, it's a university building. But, you know, I just like the scholarship and the fact that they appreciate what we're doing here. And I have to leave as someone said, you're never a prophet in your own land. Did you know that saying, Amy?
Yes.
Anyway, I wanted to show you.
Where's the pictures?
I wanted to show you a few pictures. So that's why we missed...
No, that's
last
not
week
why
I
we
was in
met.
Omaha. I also had a trip to Omaha for one night, which was very nice. I'll show you some pictures here. So the Richard Ernst lecture apparently was recorded. Vanity Nutrition found that out. And we will share the link with you. But let me share with you some pictures. So if I could ask my producer to please turn on the pictures. There you go. So that's my hotel. Isn't it just lovely, the Hotel Florhof? It's an old, privately owned hotel. Unfortunately, it's closing this summer. But it's just beautiful, spotless, calm, no noise, no air conditioning. You have to open your window. Across the street to the left is a conservatory, and people were practicing piano at night. And this is a typical town street in Zurich, right? Isn't it lovely? It's narrow streets, lovely apartments and stores, and clean as anything. And I was amused to find this sign walking around. This is a burger joint. Look at this. Healthy as, I mean, you know, you think the Swiss are staid, but what do you think of that, Amy?
Not surprising.
This is me and my hosts, Serena Riniker, who is she actually is a computational chemist at. So the university that gives this award is ETH Zurich. It's the Technical University of Zurich, where the science and the math and the engineering is taught. It's kind of up on the hill, and so she is a professor there, and she amused me all day on. Sunday, I arrived there in the morning, and she walked around and did fun things like a boat trip and took me to a cool cafe. So thank you, Serena, for doing that. You're probably not listening anyway, but that's fine. And so this is the morning of the lecture. I took a selfie. There's a lovely river bisecting Zurich, and here is one of multiple cathedrals. The water is absolutely clean. There is Zurich from a little bit up. There's a nice park. Look at a beautiful day. The university where I got the award is close to town. ETH has a campus downtown, and it's around there. And I think it was on the roof of this building that we had dinner. Okay, and then this is the crowd. This is after the lecture, so some people left. But then we sat in front and had a panel discussion, and I hope they recorded it because that was fun too. They had a couple of people who were members of the task force, the COVID task force, and also a science writer for NPR in Switzerland and an ethicist. Very interesting discussion. Now, in between the lecture and various things, there was a French horn quartet, and this man wrote a piece specially for the occasion. It's called Ernst Fanfare 2020 CD 155. And so I hope all of you know what CD 155 is and how cool it is that he wrote a piece. And he said also the first two notes are C and D. Anyway, CD 155 is the name for
PVR.
the poliovirus receptor. This young lady came to see, and she had this and held it up in the audience. And I went to say hello to her afterwards, and she was very excited. I came to talk to her. She said, "This is amazing." And finally, here's the medal. And so this is a gold medal. It's substantial. It's like an Olympic medal. Richard Ernst, and that was the first MRI he took of himself. So that's his brain. He tried it out on himself. So that's the front, and the back says Richard Ernst Lecture 2022, Vincent Racaniello, spelled correctly. So I'm very grateful that they spelled it correctly. And I have to say, they pronounced my name correctly in Switzerland, which is really, really nice. What do you think of that?
They speak Italian, French, and German as their three official languages, so not surprising. However, we have forgotten the biggest news of all. You know what that is?
Yeah, you got a job.
No, that's not
the biggest news. Yeah, I think it's the
biggest news. No, the biggest news is the incubator tomorrow.
The incubator
launch tomorrow, 5 to 7. That's the biggest news.
Yeah.
How could you have forgotten?
Oh, okay. So
where's
the incubator
the little doohickey? Where's the latest picture of the incubator?
I don't have the latest picture.
Okay, fine.
But anyway, yeah, we have the official opening, and some of you are coming. Some of you have flown from far away, and some of you are local and coming, and I appreciate it. I will bring the medal so you can see it in person, and you can see the lovely incubator. Some of you are asking about Dixon. He's apparently coming, so he's out of the hospital and well enough to walk. He'll be there, so that's great. Some of the people coming, Rich Condit is coming, Michael Schmidt is coming. Cindy Leifer may come. She said she's going to decide at the last minute because she's driving, and that's like a 5-hour drive from Ithaca. So very exciting. Oh, I hear Amy is coming, right? To the incubator opening.
So. Supposedly so.
Daniel
I
Griffin.
I hear it's a 30-minute subway ride.
It's going to be catered by, what's the name of the restaurant chain?
It's not a chain. It's Charlie Parker.
Well, he has a lot of restaurants, doesn't he? Or the owner has many.
The owner has many restaurants.
So there's just one Charlie Parker in New York?
Well, there's Charlie Parker Steak and Charlie Parker this and Charlie Parker that. They're all slightly different.
And what's the name of the guy who owns them?
So the head chef and original owner is Charlie Parker, but they were bought by a conglomerate, and I think that is by Bill, who is also coming.
Okay. Who else is coming? A number of people from Columbia, including Steve Morse,
Rod
Rothstein,
Kathy
Mendelson, one of my first students. So it should be fun. I'm very excited. We have been working hard to get it in shape.
Chris Ashton and Kathy and Casey.
Crowley. And other people I've invited, maybe they'll just show up without telling me. Maybe they won't show up at all. It's fine. We have enough people. Okay, so let's jump in here. Thanks, everyone. Charlie Parker is fabulous.
Yeah. And Jen is here, too.
Oh,
so,
hi, Jen.
See, that's why we wished her son a happy birthday. See, I told you she'd be
We
here.
have now Steph and Frank. Thank you, Frank and Steph, for moderating tonight. Cool. Really appreciate it. And yes, Amy did get a job, but she won't tell you where it is until she gets an official letter. But her last day is in a couple of weeks. We're cleaning up ferociously in the lab.
Yes.
So anyway, if any of you are in New York and near the incubator between 5 and 7, you're welcome to come in. But there you go. It's fun. Okay, so let's get into some questions. Someone asked if aftovirus, which causes foot and mouth disease in cattle, jumped to humans. And so I'm not aware. I looked it up. There are something like 40 cases that have been documented over hundreds of years. So it's not very efficient, but it can. And I suppose some of those people who get infected may be immunocompromised.
I imagine that they're the workers.
Could be the abattoir workers, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. Now, someone also asked about monkeypox. Because, as you know, there have been some cases of monkeypox in Africa. And these usually happen where people are in proximity to rodents, which are the host. No, it's the misnomer. It doesn't. The host is not monkeys. The host is rodents, and monkeys get it, and that's where probably it was first seen, so they called it monkeypox. But since smallpox vaccinations stopped in the general population, if you are near areas where there is monkeypox virus circulating, you could get it. It doesn't seem to spread effectively among people. Someone asked if I came back to do this. No, I came back yesterday anyway, because why did I come back? Well, we have the incubator opening on Thursday, and I usually don't stay longer than I need to wherever I go. I'm pretty boring. I mean, I would have liked to stay in Zurich. There's a lot to do, but I had to get back. I could do a live stream from anywhere, right? In fact, I had to test negative to come back, and I was worried I might not, in which case I would have to stay, and I would have done the live stream from my hotel room in Zurich. Right, Amy?
I guess so.
So you're going to be away next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
You want to do it from your new digs?
Sure.
You got a laptop?
I have a laptop, yeah. We can.
Yeah, and you got internet?
Yeah, I think so. I have to look into it.
If you got internet and laptop,
we have to look into it. We'll look into it Friday.
All right. Now this one, maybe Amy knows the answer. What about the paper about possible superantigen-mediated disease potentiated by an intestinal virus as a mechanism of hepatitis? I think it's
Apparently, that's what they're saying is like some protein leaks from the gut and attaches to the particle. Doesn't make sense. Then it should only be kids. A vaccine, it would not attach to because the vaccine is just spike that's presented on the antigen presenting cells in your arm muscle, so it wouldn't happen. But I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm not
okay.
buying it.
So I've learned over the years, if Amy doesn't buy it, it's probably right. She's usually right.
So.
Okay, so some of you have heard the new Puscast. That's great. Glad you like it. Look at this. This is cool. The 2 PharmDs from San Francisco are going to come tomorrow. They came just for this. I'm so grateful that someone would come just for that. Very nice.
That's fantastic. Looking forward to meeting them.
Yep. Here, Nemo Profeta in Patria, right? No one is a prophet in their own land.
That is true.
Looking for questions. Yes. WHO says there's been 241 cases in Nigeria of monkeypox in the last 5 years. I think it's one of those countries where there are rodents and humans close together, and the rodents with the virus. So I don't believe there are any rodents in the U.S. with monkeypox, as far as we know.
I think that there was a case in Massachusetts.
Was it imported?
I don't know.
In Europe, the title of professor is more prestigious than doctor.
That is true.
So a couple of years ago, I bought a train ticket in, I think it was my trip to Rotterdam. And on the train ticket, it was printed, Herr Dr. Professor Racaniello. I kept it because, my host, she said on her door, it said, but it's not hair, it's, what's the word for woman?
I'm not sure.
Someone's going to tell us. Dr. Professor, yeah. She said, we're all used to it, but it's cool, I think. Oh, there's Jen. Okay, so the Ernst lecture will be online. It's recorded according to Vanity Nutrition. I already told you that. And someone asked if we were live streaming the incubator opening. No, I'm sorry. I don't have the bandwidth to do it. David, my video guy, couldn't make it. Otherwise, he could do it. That would be cool. But no, not happening. Would a pulmonologist on TWIV be beneficial considering most infections are respiratory? Well, TWIV is about viruses, the kind that make you sick. It's not about much. It's not as much about clinical medicine, right? That's Daniel Griffin. What do you think, Amy?
It's not about clinical medicine at all. And I'm not sure how we concluded that most infections are respiratory.
Well, it's the most common way viruses get into us, by the respiratory tract.
Just because it's the most commonly used.
Yeah, doesn't mean it's the most common.
Doesn't mean that most infections are respiratory, right?
So let's go through what other ways we could get an infection. We could get a GI infection, right?
Which is 90% of all enteros, which are the most ubiquitous viruses on the planet, right?
And then we have genitourinary, right?
Right, and then you have bloodborne, which is much harder, right?
And then you have skin.
Right. So while I agree that respiratory viruses, infections are very prominent, and they're probably, I would have assumed that actually gut to oral may be just as numerous.
By the way, I just finished reading today The Death of Expertise, and I'm sure some of you have read it, but I'm going to gift it to Amy once she moves to her new digs. And I think we all need to read this because it's a big problem in this country. It's a real big problem. And you individuals are here because you appreciate expertise. But Amy reminded me that Lex Fridman told me not to act like an expert because people wouldn't like it, which I think is just
The
hard.
problem. The
It's a big
problem.
It's a
The
big problem.
problem. The problem. I mean, I don't know how much more I could say. The problem.
You could say it as much as you want because it is an enormous problem. People think that they
But
read a
people love
book.
him, and they complained about how I was belittling him, and it was not cool, and I was not cool because I had no appreciation for Lex Friedman and his podcast, and he was just like the cat's meow, and I was like, he was a charlatan.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do. It's a real problem that people think they can learn something in an hour. And they don't really work at it at all. And I'm not being elitist, which is the problem if you criticize them. Anyway, read it, The Death of Expertise. Viruses know more about the biology of the human cell than most cell biologists. They know how to tweak it and how to exploit it. Yes. In fact, Ari Helenius, who used to be at ETH Zurich, he didn't show up, but someone said, Ari Helenius used to say to me, if you know the virus, you know the cell. What do you think about that, Amy?
That is correct. But also, didn't David used to say that viruses were the cell biologist's greatest tools because it told you exactly what the cell was doing? Isn't David having like known for some kind of for a quote along those lines?
Yeah, for sure. You are a perfect almond croissant. I don't know why that is. Why are you an almond croissant, dude?
Because almond croissants with the gooey paste that we had at the morning that then you told Darius to go out and buy with the franzipan in the middle, with the
It's really good.
marzipan in the, was delicious. The best croissant.
How likely monkeypox will become epidemic? I think it's highly unlikely, right? So one of the things I learned from this book, The Death of Expertise, is that scientists shouldn't be predicting what's going to happen. That's not what they do. They test ideas by doing experiments. They don't predict. But we have not seen it. It's been spilling over into people for many years without becoming a human virus. So I think that it's unlikely to happen. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's just a coincidence that there's been like, what, 30 cases now? Or 700 cases now? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
TWIV 898 linked to TWIV 145, which was about calming cytokine storm in influenza with AALR, which reduces IL-1. And now with the TWIV 900 data, I'm curious on what happened to AALR. I don't know, but humans don't have the receptor antagonist like mice do. And so the idea would be to provide one, and that maybe that's what AALR is. But I think they're in trials, frankly. Is it easier to inhibit viral proteases than nucleic acid polymerases? No, I think that you can't say it's easier in general, right? They're both enzymes, so they're both easier than, say, a transcription factor, right? Because they're catalytic.
You always target your drug for catalytic enzymatic activity, right, Bachelos?
But what makes Paxlovid better is not because it's a protease. It just molnupiravir, just for whatever reason, I'm not sure we know. It does very well in cells in culture and in mice, but it doesn't work out in people. But there may be a lot of reasons for that have nothing to do with the target. Could be pharmacokinetic, right?
Yeah, could be absorption, bioavailability, blah, blah, blah. For sure.
What's the deal with Tamiflu? What do you got in mind? Tamiflu is an antiviral for influenza, right? What's the deal? What do you want to know? Ask a question. What do you think of UB612, a multi-epitope vaccine in Taiwan? I don't know about that particular one, but I do think multiple epitopes are good. What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, for sure. We've always argued that you should have multiple epitopes.
My hometown is once again recommending masks again based mostly on wastewater. How accurate is wastewater for predicting waves? What would you say to wave prediction from wastewater, Amy?
It's not really proven. It's been pushed forward as we need to monitor wastewater and retrospectively then we see that they correlate well, but it's not really been proven to go the opposite way. And it's not really clear to me, without sequencing a lot of it, if you're actually looking at an increase in human infections or infections that occur and spread throughout the animal population of the area. So I'm not. Retrospectively, it looks good. Prospectively, I'm still on the fence. I'm not convinced.
I don't know why you would start masking again, though, if you're vaccinated. If most people are vaccinating, I don't understand that. I should point out that in Switzerland, there's no more pandemic. There's no masking. There's no distancing. Nothing is shut down. Everybody's back to life, and that's the way it should be.
Well, New York City just came out and said that they highly recommend you wear a mask inside.
I'm not wearing a mask anymore. It's not necessary.
Okay.
I don't see the need. I wore a mask before I went to Switzerland, so I wouldn't be positive when I got back. Before I got back, and that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, that's because it's required to get a test, which was kind of silly.
Yes, that's another thing, right? In the first 6 months, we didn't do that. Tell me, what's the logic? The virus is here in the U.S. What is the issue with people bringing it in if it's already here in spades? It makes zero sense, folks. Stupid public health decisions. That makes no sense whatsoever. Okay. I'm sorry if everyone missed us last week. That's good. That's good that they missed us, right, Amy?
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any things people can do to reduce their chances of developing long COVID if they get COVID? I'm not aware of any because we don't know really what's at the basis of long COVID. Are you, Amy?
No, I'm not aware that we understand very much about long COVID.
Yeah. So I don't know what I mean. Well, I heard today that Omicron is less likely to cause anosmia, which is one of the long COVID symptoms. So you're less likely to have permanent smell loss with Omicron. All right, is that good?
I'm not clear how they decided that.
Oh, by an observational study. Yeah, it's not perfect, but if it's confirmed by
Well,
more
I'm just
studies.
trying to figure out so we really only focus on spike alterations. So I'm trying to figure out if we should investigate alterations in other viral proteins because clearly it's not correlative to spike.
Yes, I agree.
And so, it turns out, what didn't I send you the paper by Raul and Melanie Ott this morning about Omicron not really being less virulent or something or other? It was a Nature
Raul
paper.
Andino?
Yeah, Raul.
What the hell does he know about
guy.
virulence?
He's been studying polio virulence for like 25,000 years.
No, but SARS-CoV-2, what did he do? What did he infect?
They infected golden hamsters and stuff.
Well, we know in people it's not less virulent already. That's
Right.
quite clear.
So I think that's what they found in this hamster study.
But didn't Michael Diamond publish that it is less virulent in golden hamsters?
Yeah,
They
I
did.
don't know.
We did that paper on Twiv. So,
Yeah, I know. I was on it.
Depends what golden hamster you have.
Yeah, apparently. So I'm just trying to I just don't understand why why we would think that it would not cause one specific portion of long COVID. So it clearly can't be. So either A, there's an alteration that in another protein that's really important that we're totally missing because we're totally focused on spike, or the observation study is just biased by people answering questionnaires. So I don't really know. So that's, yeah, I'm kind of
I think there's no
confused.
question that it's as virulent as anybody
Right. So
else.
then I'm just kind of confused. So it sounds like it's a questionnaire answering problem or something. I don't know. I'm just confused.
So apparently, this is a case of monkeypox in Massachusetts. I just looked it up. This person had Canadian travel, so they may have acquired it there. But I'm not worried. I don't think it's going to spread. These things occur. They've been occurring for many years sporadically. Do cells, once
Well, wait
infected...
a minute. But you
Okay.
really think that the rodents in a state that is further north and colder are going to carry a tropical virus more frequently than rodents here
No,
in a
I don't
more
think they carry.
tropical?
I don't think they carry a tropical virus. No. Maybe the guy went to Canada from Africa. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do cells once infected ever clear the virus? Depends on the virus. Retroviruses may remain forever if the cells live, but SARS-CoV-2, the virus usually kills the cells. Right, Amy? It's a lytic virus, correct?
Yeah, it's a lytic virus.
But some viruses persistently infect cells and don't kill them. But SARS-CoV-2, the cells die, it's the end of it. The opening track on Tom Waits' album is big in Japan. Congrats. Yeah, people can get big elsewhere than the U.S. It's fine. I have no problem. I just appreciated the honor that they bestowed upon me. And I know that you do too. The British press is full of brouhaha about monkeypox. Are they desperate for a new virus story? Yeah, this has happened before. And the press has learned that viruses get them a lot of clicks. And so they're going to play every virus story for what it's worth. But I'm telling you, we've been talking about monkeypox in people for years. Nobody paid any attention. It's not a big deal.
Well, maybe now is the time to have a special TWIV with Condit and Clarissa, whatever her
Clarissa
name is.
Damaso, yeah, we want
Yeah,
to.
why don't you schedule it for the summer, like in the middle of June? Get rich to get organized and do it in the middle of June when
Yeah,
monkeypox is a hot topic.
we're gonna do it. She's gonna come back. She just needed to do something. Do you think the current pandemic may be a dress rehearsal for the coming plague? It is
Really,
a
this
dress.
wasn't a plague?
Yeah, right. It's a dress rehearsal for the next pandemic. Yeah. My 45-year-old sister had COVID in December. 2 months ago, her heart rate started rising when doing mild exercise. Saw a cardiologist today who said it was viral related. Oh, these cardiologists, Amy.
Well, Ian says that it can be virus related.
So the problem is that if the virus affects your ability to breathe, which in Ian's case, if he mildly exerts himself, he can't catch his breath, then your heart works harder to get oxygen to tissues, right? So, yeah, in that sense. So the virus is nothing, in this case, probably nothing doing to the heart directly, but rather impacting the ability to maintain proper blood
But
oxygen.
there are patients who have heart muscle damage, like
Yeah, yeah, sure.
the lady who
Yes.
died from the autopsy and that Roberto reported in Science.
Yes. So it could be that there's some heart damage. Myocarditis, pericarditis happened with infection. They may happen with vaccines, but much, much rarer. So better
Well,
to
yeah,
get vaccinated.
but the other thing is, you can't just go with symptoms and have the guy say it's virus related. You have to do some tests.
Yes, that's the best conclusion is he or she shouldn't just say it's virus related without doing some tests. Environmental Coffee has my daughter's 33-year-old friend who post-vaccine had a stroke and developed some kind of autoimmune. Says it's vaccine related, but doctor can't get answers. Well, it's
Talk
again,
to
Amy.
Daniel and he'll debunk it.
Yeah, send a question into Daniel at microbe.tv. But I would say you don't know unless you do the proper tests, right? Where to find info.
Yeah, but I think Daniel will debunk it.
Okay. Long Island is considered to have the best bagels. Is that correct? I thought New York City had the best bagels.
I'm unaware that Long Island has the best bagels. Not a single famous bagel spot. Nor when Eater New York comes out with their top 10 or 20 places to buy a bagel is a single one on Long Island. So I don't think so. But I've not been
Okay.
to Long Island bagels for years. So I don't know.
You look happy in the photos. I try to smile when I take a photo. But after my negative test, I was very happy. I was very relaxed. It was great. We went to eat in the college cafeteria. It was really good. Do you think there will ever be a rapid test that detects asymptomatic COVID?
Well, that's what they're detecting.
Yeah, if you have the test and you're PCR positive and you don't have symptoms, you have an asymptomatic infection. Not in asymptomatic COVID. That's not correct. Right? COVID is a disease, so you can't have you're asymptomatically infected, right? But yeah, a PCR or an antigen test can tell you if you just take one randomly and you're positive, you have no symptoms, you're asymptomatically infected. Yep. I've been wondering why liver disease is not considered a risk factor. Are you aware of any research or reasoning says lots of words about this? Please, and say a lot of words about this. Well, if we don't have a lot of words to say, we're not going to make them up.
Oh, this isn't creative literature podcast?
Where you can just make lots of words. There has a risk factor. You look at the people who get the most severe disease and you say, what else do they have? And liver disease is not one of them. Correct, no. Amy?
That is true.
Yeah, so you can look into the studies where they have profiled severe COVID and look at that. I don't know why it isn't, but that's the fact. Is the French Horn Quartet on YouTube yet? No, I don't think so. Vanity is on it. Vanity will send it to us and let you know. Is Amy just going to sneak out on us?
Sneak out from where?
From the live stream. Are you going to just disappear one night and never be seen again?
I don't have magical capacity like that.
Now, Amy's going to stick around. She's going to do the live stream. She promised me.
Yeah, I just said I wasn't doing TWIP.
Amy is has 100% for her word. Doesn't break her word. Really remarkable person. As soon as we here in Portugal dropped a mask, cases blew up. I don't care for your casual reporting, Palu. I want to see hard numbers from some kind of study, because too many people come here and say, "Oh, this blew up and that blew up," and it's not correct. So, frankly, vaccination still prevents severe disease and death, no matter what you say. Okay, I just don't believe it. Switzerland has 4 languages: German, Italian, French, and what's the 4th? Romansh?
Apparently Romansh. I don't know what Romansh is.
I didn't know that.
What is Romansh?
Romansh?
Yeah, I never heard of it.
Romansh. Romansh. It's a Rhaeto-Romanic language spoken in the Swiss canton of Grisons and is an official language of Switzerland. How about that? By the way,
that's cool.
So I sat next to at dinner to an American expat. He's a relatively young professor who took a job at ETH Zurich. And he said he knew High German, right? But
there's Low German?
No, there's Swiss German. Which he said is totally different. And so he has to teach in High German, but when you go to a coffee shop, they don't speak High German, and so, and you know, when you chat with people, it's all Swiss German. And he said it's really, really happened, really tough. What happened to Dixon? So Dixon went in the hospital last week. I don't know why. He didn't say why. He just told me I'm in the hospital because he couldn't make TWIV on Thursday. But apparently he is coming tomorrow to the incubator. So maybe we will see. Future meetings, open windows with screens in buildings, plus HEPA filter, ducting, cooling, heating. Pfft. Look, the meeting that I went to, the talk I gave, everybody's just sitting there, and there's nothing special, as you could see. I don't think you need to do it. I think the vaccines work well. Is it safe to get together with grandchildren?
Yes.
Yes. 4 shots, that's good. I don't know how long ago you got the 4th, but yeah, you're good. Brienne is coming also. Yeah, she'll be there because she's not too far away. Oh, here's one for Amy. The proposed SARS-CoV-2 live codon de-optimized vaccine. What do you think about that? Can you explain that, Amy?
So they change nucleotides. So you encode for the same amino acid using a codon that is infrequently used. And that makes the translation less efficient. And since there's no change in the protein, it's very safe. And the only concern would be if the RNA structure is what it causes a virulence, right? Because then it could revert back. But so it was done by Wimmer and Kara Byrne for polio.
Yeah. So what were the findings? Was it that they didn't put it?
It wasn't
in people,
as good as an OPV2. That's why it got dropped.
So do you have safety concerns about these codon de-optimized vaccines? But the idea is they can't revert.
I don't have safety concerns. They're just not as effective.
Okay.
Don't have they're not causing disease, if that's what you mean about safety concerns. They're just not effective, or at least I believe that's what was observed for Kara and Eckhart. But I'd have to review, or we could just ask Kostya. He knows.
Yeah, ask Kostya. I wish I could be there for the opening. Callista, I'm going to do fundraiser on the West Coast, probably in L.A., because my fundraising guy is in L.A., so I'll keep you guys posted. L.A.,
No, you're going to go up and you're going to go down the whole coast. You're going to start in San Francisco and move down.
Okay.
You're going to do a series of fundraisers in a single trip. For 14 days, you'll be out on the West Coast going to do small fundraisers.
How many days?
That's 2 weeks.
That's a long time. What about the pods? The kind that make you sick?
You have pods that are in the can.
Chances of a new shot for the fall. Hard to know. In mild immunocompromised, live in New York, just don't want multiple shots or time off. Doc guidance not great. Amy, what do you think? So now everyone's talking about, the FDA is gonna review the evidence, right, next week or something. What do you think? Are they going to boost with a different vaccine in the fall?
I have to see the evidence.
Yeah, I don't see evidence that we need it. I mean, if you ask Paul Offit, he says frequent boosters is not a public health strategy. I actually had that on a slide in my talk at the Ernst, and you saw it, Amy, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand what you're doing. If disease
not
frequency,
frequent health boosters in terms of every 6 months, but he can't argue about about an annual booster like we do for flu.
I think if disease incidence rises, that's fine, but I don't see it rising.
They're not concerned about disease incidence. They're just concerned about their positive antigen test because they don't understand. And nobody really knows what a positive antigen test means, nor do they really know what a negative antigen test means. This whole testing thing is a disaster.
What's the attire for tomorrow? Casual. Right?
Business casual. Well, don't come in shorts and flip-flops.
No, don't come in shorts and flip-flops. But business casual is fine. Nice pants, a shirt.
Yeah. It's relaxing, but no shorts and flip-flops, no muscle tanks, no sports luxury sports bras over leggings like Lululemon and stuff.
Oh, by the way, I passed a Tom Ford store in Zurich. I took a picture of it for you.
Really?
Did you know he had a store in Zurich?
Of course. Tom Ford is everywhere because he's fabulous.
I have to show it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm even thinking about unpacking my red gingham Manolos. What do you think about that there,
oh,
Vincent?
you already packed them?
Well, of course I already packed
Oh,
them.
wear
They're
the
important.
purple.
They're important. They're important. So I have to have. They have to make sure that they get on the truck. But now I'm cracking them out. The red
I
gingham
think you ought
Manolo.
to wear the purple shoes. Those are cool.
They don't look good with the pants. I
All
tried
right.
it on. They need the
Pax
red.
rebound
The
occurs in
re.
2%. Okay. I'd like to know if you think that contagiousness is the same in rebound as in the first phase. So the Pax rebound, by the way, was seen in the clinical trial. So this is nothing new to treatment.
Just
And
says that we're not giving a long enough course.
well, it's only 2%, so I'm not sure you need to do anything. But I think nobody's looked at infectivity, right? That's typical that no one has looked at infectivity, but I would guess it's going to be knocked way down. And so it's not going to be, you're not going to be contagious, but we have to do the experiment. No one's done it. Please take some photos of the incubator. I'll have Amy do that. Can you do that? Can you take some photos?
Yeah, I can take some photos.
I don't have a
We have to
photographer.
take photos anyway for Eric and send them to Moss since he can't come.
I seem to remember you saying that 20% of infected people do most of the spreading. I'd be grateful to hear your rationale. Well, it's not my rationale. It is published data. It is the dispersion parameter is calculated by epidemiologists, and this is an estimate of what fraction of the infected people do most of the spreading. And so that you have to read the literature to do that. But the papers have been published. It's not my rationale. I just report what's published.
Wow, it's 8:47. Okay, like 2 more because I gotta go.
Where are you going?
Wash my Eliza,
Okay.
my last Eliza,
Wow.
and stuff. I have stuff to do. I'm a
Yeah,
busy
I
person.
know. I'm
I'm
not saying
busy,
you
busy,
don't.
busy.
We like your company.
I understand, but I'm busy. I
All right.
have washed my Manol. I've washed my Manolas. I have washed my Eliza, and nobody washes their Manolas. You just don't do that.
I wonder why
And
you said
then,
that.
because I'm reading Jen's comment about her loving the red gingham Manolas. Yeah, everybody loves the red gingham
Yeah,
Manolas,
you should come,
and
Jen,
and
and see
Vincent
it.
loved them too until he started saying, "Well, but in Australia they're $1,700, but they're not. I don't live in Australia, so it doesn't make a difference what their cost in Australia is." And
Okay.
then I have stuff to do, and I have to like clean some more and pack, and
All right.
I
Okay.
got
Okay.
stuff to do. Plus, I have to organize up. We have to take the $200,000 machine back to Ian on Friday.
Okay.
He'll be really pissed off if we don't.
All right. Well, bring
And
it.
I
It's fine.
promised
I'm
that
coming
we
up
did.
to help you. No problem.
Yeah, I know, and I promised that I would. So you don't
Can a
want to.
COVID vaccine be made to stop
No.
transmission? I mean, but you have to understand, Frank, it's lower and shorter in time than in an unvaccinated person. The Swiss study out of Geneva showed that months ago. Okay, so it's never going to be zero, but you can knock it down to make a difference. Very excited to hear about Amy's new job. It must be terribly sad to leave your old lab. I don't think Amy is sad. Well, I shouldn't speak for you, right?
Yeah, I don't think that was the correct answer.
She's sad to leave the lab, but not probably the institution.
No,
Right?
the institution is not good. Not
Not
good.
been nice to her.
Not good at all.
Will Amy continue to share her wisdom on Wednesdays?
Yeah. Think so.
My kids came back from a weekend scout camp with norovirus.
Not surprising.
Are there any technical barriers to creating a vaccine? No, they've been surpassed. There are vaccines that are in testing, and it is severe enough to justify a vaccine. Yes, it's maybe not.
They're making a vaccine.
They are making a vaccine. It puts a lot of people out of work and out of school, so that's it. Animal part. My son was excited for the birthday shout out. Thank you. Wish we could be at the incubator. We're going to a trampoline park. Okay.
Hey, he's 11. He understands his priorities. I was, when you were 11, you had different priorities.
Yeah, I understand. Your lighting is
great.
Perfect, by the way.
Well, this is courtesy of Richard, and I saw Richard's name scroll through earlier.
Oh, really? Richard's here? Thank you, Richard. We're going to have to set it up where Amy is going. And I'm going to be down. By the way, I'm going to Washington, D.C. For the ASM meeting in a couple of weeks. And if anyone's there and you want to get together for a coffee or something, let me know. And
What, are you dissing me?
No, I'm not dissing you. You could come too. You could come with us, okay? But I'm saying I can fix Amy's lights when I go. If she lets me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Amy's leaving the New York City area. And she'll have to get bagels somewhere else, right?
Well, so already I've researched it. What do you think? I go places and I don't research. So
you've researched where are you going to live?
Where the best bagels are. I researched where to live.
What's the name of your neighborhood? What's the name of your neighborhood?
I live in Friendship Heights in Chevy Chase.
Wow. Chevy Chase is a nice neighborhood, right?
Yeah, it's very nice. It has its own. Are you sitting down for this one?
Yeah.
It has its own Saks.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there a Saks in D.C.?
No, this is the only one. It's 5-minute walk from my house.
That's because Chevy Chase is like a shishi neighborhood. You know that, right?
No, we were driving around. I didn't like the other ones. We went to this one apartment. They told us to go to the place in Chevy Chase. And Wendy's driving around with Gordo on her lap. And Rebecca, her friend, is giving us the tour. And as we're driving around looking for a parking spot there, was the Saks.
So I will be at ASM Micro from Friday the 10th of June through Monday the 13th, most likely. 10th through the 13th, okay? Just if you want to get together, let us know. We can meet you. And yes, Amy is always right. Yes. Correct. Now, some people are saying that Frau, not hair, it's Frau, sorry. Frau, or if a professor, Frau Doctor, yeah. Some people are saying that the Swiss German is called Low German, but in Switzerland they called it Swiss German. That's all I know. I'm not a...
It's like French and Quebecois.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to set up a webcam, but I just don't know where I'd put it. And then people might say, I don't want to be on camera, right? So...
No, we're not having a webcam.
If the rabies vaccine were cheaper, would it make sense to give it prophylactically instead of after exposure? I don't think that's common enough around here, right? But maybe, in some countries I think India has 50,000 cases of rabies a year.
I think South America has a lot from the vampire bat paper that we did. Remember, they were trying to make a herpes virus into into the rabbit vaccine.
So that's interesting. So you would give it like any vaccine, right, prophylactically instead of after exposure. There must be reasons why they don't do it. I'm not aware of them. It's a good question. Very good question. Thank you, Sylvia, for your contribution. I need to have my first Shingrix. Nervous because it's a combo. Do you think it's really recommended for everyone, or what category would benefit? I hear it really knocks you out. No, I mean, some people get knocked out. Here's what someone said. Oh, I was knocked out. I said, what did you have? He said, I was tired. My arm was sore. I stayed home. It doesn't sound like knocked out. but it's a day.
Everybody is different.
Everybody's
Everybody
different.
is different.
So I would just do, everyone should get it because after 50, you can get shingles and anyone. I had shingles when I started TWIV. How about that, huh? So, yes, you should get it, Sylvia. Don't be scared. It's fine. No problem. I recommend anti-vaxxers to come here and learn things. I wonder if they don't come because, they have a fixed viewpoint and they don't want to change it, right?
Could be.
For a virus, COVID, for instance, to evolve into a less virulent form, is it true this typically takes hundreds of years, or can it happen in just a couple of years? Well, I don't know of any examples. It's all theory, but the idea would it take hundreds of years. It's not going to happen. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I don't think it happens quickly.
No, it doesn't happen quickly. And I don't know how you're going to say it would evolve into a less virulent form if it takes over a very long period of time and there's constant exposure, that it's actually the immune response that's protecting you, that's giving you the impression that it's less virulent.
Yeah, that's right. That's a
So
good point.
I don't really understand that. I don't really understand.
Do you have any thoughts on Powassan or any other of the tick-vectored viruses? I would love to have a veterinary virologist, pathology, entomologist review. So we
There's
did
not a
a...
lot.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
We did a TWIV in Galveston in 2019, and one of our panelists was a tick virologist, so you should go back and check that out. It was a good discussion. But we could certainly have another one to update things, yeah. I mean, these are relatively rare, right? Because the tick needs a certain kind of tick, and tick exposure happens in certain people who go hiking or camping and so forth. So they're still relatively rare. Go ahead.
I think that there's like lots of ticks, but I think that there's only like 4 or 7 tick species or something or other. Or maybe there's only 7 viruses in a tick that infect humans. I forget what Rafal said, but Rafal, has talked about it.
So someone said, Amy, give us a hint. She did. She said she's going to live in Friendship Heights. That's a hint, right?
It's not where the job is, but yeah.
So maybe no one should listen to Lex when he teaches. That's a good point, right? So he's an expert in his field and he teaches it. Robotics,
well, he no longer
right?
teaches. He basically resigned from Harvard.
MIT.
MIT, yeah. I think he basically resigned. Yeah. He closed his lab. I don't think he actually does anything.
What also bothers me is that one of you emailed me a while ago saying on one of his other shows, he said that I sounded like I answered some of his questions off the cuff. To which I would say, if I've been thinking about viruses for 40 years, nothing I say is off the cuff. This really pisses me off. And I feel like writing to him and saying, you really disappointed me. But the whole idea that you shouldn't...
waste my time?
I know. The whole idea that you shouldn't come off of an expert is just absurd. It's absurd. We need expertise to make this country work. And if we're not going to have experts, it's going to fail. Okay? If that's what you want, go for it. I'm going to move to Zurich.
Okay. All right. Two more questions because it's 9:00 and then I really need to go. It's getting late.
I never read virology papers, as I know I don't have the knowledge to understand them. I listen to you guys discuss the papers on TWIV. That's a great alternative. And now I'm going to go find a podcast on MRI because I really want to learn more about it, because hearing about the people who did it was fascinating. Oh, look, here's the link for the video. It should be added any day now. There it is. Forschung. There it is. It's the Ernst lecture. Thank you, Vanity. Very nice. Lori Garrett expressed intense dislike of the premonition. Don't like it. Did you read the premonition, Amy?
Yeah, I picked it for a TWIV pick like 2 years ago.
Did you like it?
I found it was very well written. I found it disturbing in aspects, yes.
Haven't read it. Should I read it?
No, not necessarily.
If you picked it, I should read it, right?
No,
Okay.
it's not. No. Um, no. I
Can
mean, I
Amy?
think like she's more upset about the fact that like he really kind of takes a sledgehammer and well, sledgehammer is not the right analogy, but basically he talks about the failures of the American public health and everything, and it's some of it. I'm not, she's talked about like how public health isn't really public health anymore. So I mean, he's very blunt about it, and she's a little bit more diplomatic about the failing. So I think probably that's part of what rubbed her the wrong way.
Can Amy clarify if she thinks SARS-2 has anything to do with the hepatitis cases in kids?
um So I'm not sure it does, because sometimes you find SARS-CoV-2 and sometimes you don't. So it's it's not clear. It needs to shake out more.
Okay.
But if you said to me, the even the kids who were not positive for SARS-CoV-2 were positive for a different rare virus, it sounds more like it might be a potential opportunistic infection, right? Like kind of like KSHV was for HIV and other things, right?
Mm-hmm. WHO had a press release. Mozambique had their first wild polio in 30 years. Yep.
Yes.
If you
Not
don't keep,
surprising.
got to keep up vaccination, right?
Yeah, so actually, when another sub-Saharan country just actually had a vaccine day or something or other, and I think they went in with OPV. I'm not sure that
Yeah.
that's
Isn't that
I
what they usually do, right?
yeah, I'm not sure that that's the smartest thing to do if you wanted to get rid of these cases as well as not interrupt the eradication campaign. But I'm more along the lines of Chumakov. I think we should make an OPV 1 and 3, like Raul and Andy did for 2. Yeah.
Amy, have
All
you
right.
seen what was the last one? Have you seen the recent Times article by Akiko about nasal spray vaccines? What do you think?
Yes.
What do you think? Thoughts?
What?
Thoughts?
Uh, So from her, it sounds like a golden idea. When it was proposed 2 years ago, it was poo-pooed. Not really clear why. Um, I mean, Ian talked about making a nasal vaccine when we saw him like a year and a half ago because of the IgA response, right?
We did a paper on TWIV on that.
Yeah,
Remember, three
yeah.
three viral proteins and ad vectors. So in animals, it looked good. If it turns out to work in people, it's fine. But there's
Well,
no
Michael
reason.
Diamond also has a paper showing that it works. Chadox works as a nasal vaccine.
So the thing is, the virus. If you're infected and you're not vaccinated, you get a nasal vaccine, basically, right? Because the virus is going in your nose, and they don't have any better resistance to infection than a vaccinated person does. So I'm not sure why a vaccine would be better, but we'll see. It has to be tested. That's how I look at it.
Mm, I think that I don't necessarily agree with that statement. I
But do
think
you not
that
agree that when you're infected, you're getting a
it,
nasal
it is
vaccine?
nasal, right, but when you look at reinfections and stuff, I think that there's a significant reduction in, I think the severity of disease and stuff that associates with reinfection is tremendously reduced.
It is reduced, but
And
so
I
it is also
think,
reduced with vaccines.
well, that's the question. Is there a direct comparison between in reinfection and vaccines? And I believe that initially the pot was, oh, natural, what they call a term that I dislike was natural immunity. Oh, it's not as good from infection versus vaccine. Like when Cromer was on Twib and he kept saying, oh, it's heterologous. It's heterogeneous in an infected person, so it's never going to be as good. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
And now
listening to the SETI. SETI was saying that today as I was looking for clips.
Right. Right. And then what did we find out? That was it's totally the opposite.
It doesn't make sense, though. It should be, vaccine is the same dose in the same place all the time. It should be more homogeneous.
Right. But what we found out was that, no, and then they were saying that protection from infection by being infected was not as good as being vaccinated, which also turned out to be incorrect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, seems to me we don't have really enough data to make the statement about whether or not the number of people who get symptoms plus severe disease or whatever from vaccinated and from being unvaccinated but reinfected, doesn't seem to me we have enough data to make a conclusion, to make any statement, right?
Yep.
So I don't know that I would say that that a nasal vaccine may not be better.
Okay, but we have to find out. I agree. We need to do the clinical trials. For anyone to say this is going to be great is wrong, right? You can't say it's going to be great till you've tried it.
It could be it could be worse. It could be great. It could be better, or it could be exactly the same, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You have three options.
Yep.
Right.
Indeed.
All right, I gotta go now.
All right, thank you,
Otherwise,
Amy.
I turn into a pumpkin, and my Eliza will hate me.
See you tomorrow at the incubator.
What time do you want me to come, or you want to text me?
I'll text you.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Okay. I have to. Oh, Amy is still there. Okay, now she's gone. All right. Have you discussed phages? Yes, we have. We've got a couple of different podcasts on phages and their use in treating bacterial infections. There was a little bit of one of my lectures on that, so you just have to search it out, but it's there for sure. Should they test for influenza like they do for SARS-CoV-2? Should they test more viruses? Or are there prohibitive costs? Well, yes, there's a cost, right? But if it's worth it, you shouldn't worry about the cost. So the question is it worth it? So right now we're testing a lot of people that don't need to be tested for SARS-CoV-2. And my opinion, you should be tested if you have respiratory symptoms and you want to know if it's SARS-CoV-2 so you could get a treatment in monoclonal or Paxlovid. Now, if you're at risk, certain at-risk populations could get tested more recently, but to be tested to come back in the country is absurd. So I don't think we should test for influenza like we do for SARS-CoV-2. This is not going to go on forever. There's no point in knowing that someone is positive if there's no consequence, if they don't need to be treated. That's my opinion that is formulated based on the science, which is always what I formulate my opinion on. And I've said that for 2 years now. Love you guys, but you have just got done saying it's not a clinical show, but now we're hearing not to. So, Evan, what's the point of pointing that out? All right? I'm looking at the science behind masking and the science behind the protection conferred by vaccines. It's not a clinical decision. Even though it happens to do with people wearing masks, the virus infects people. So that's my interest. So I don't understand why you would say that, except to antagonize us. The New Zealand Prime Minister lost her sense of smell. Hopefully it comes back. Because if it doesn't come back in 3 months or so, it's not coming back. At least that's what a neuroscientist told me, and he could be wrong. All experts can be wrong from time to time. They're not wrong all the time, hopefully. My understanding is you felt protected with 2 mRNAs, but you both received the third because of the employment mandate. No, that's not correct. We both decided to get the third dose before the employment mandate. It was a few days before, actually. I did because we looked at an entire Ontario study which showed that the third dose gives you better neutralization against Omicron. So I said to Amy, I think this is a good reason to get it. She said, well, it's not perfect, but sure. Right? The fact is that we don't know if antibodies are all that you need. So that's why we got the third, not because of the employment mandate. Okay. Could you make a virus clone that doesn't mutate? No, you can't. If you take away the ability of viruses to mutate, and it's been done, you can reduce the mutation frequency. The viruses they lose their fitness, and they would never compete in the real world. So you can't do it. Did the vaccine give direction for the later strains? So I'm going to restate your question. Did the vaccine apply selection pressure for the emergence of various variants of concern? Immunity is the selective force for the variants, largely. And that's done by infection or vaccination. So it's both. And so if you would rather be infected, that's your choice, but you're still going to apply pressure to select variants. So it's not correct to say that we shouldn't vaccinate because it selects for variants, because any immunity does. And so everyone's talking about long COVID. You're going to wear a mask because you're afraid of long COVID. It's fine. How long are you going to wear a mask? You're waiting for the science on long COVID? You could wait 10 years. Long COVID is an imprecise science at this point. But you can keep masking until you think it's solved. That's fine. Is there any research on using SARS-CoV as an oncolytic tool for lung cancer? I don't know of any. But Amy may correct me when she listens tomorrow. Yeah, Twin 104 a long time ago, but we'll revisit monkeypox. It's no problem. If a person is asymptomatic and scans show internal silent organ damage, can be said to have COVID-19. So a symptom is what you feel, not what you measure. What you measure by this scan is a sign of infection. So they're still asymptomatic because an asymptomatic person may not feel anything, but the virus is reproducing. The immune response is engaged. You're making cytokines and antibodies and T cells and so forth. But you don't feel that, so that's the definition of an asymptomatic infection. So no symptom. COVID is not signs only. COVID is symptoms that you feel. That's what COVID is. It's the disease, and that's driven by the symptoms. So, in fact, when you get a PCR test, you're testing for SARS-CoV-2. You're not getting a COVID test. It's incorrect. Everybody uses it incorrectly. It's fine. Not going to fight that one. But COVID is a disease. PCR test is not testing for a disease because you can have SARS-CoV-2 without disease, without symptoms. Now, if you start having long COVID, that means you have symptoms, right? We don't have a test that will say, oh, by the way, you have long COVID and you don't know it. We don't have that yet. So if you have long COVID and you feel tired, you have respiratory issues, long-term, you have cardiac, gastrointestinal, skin, CNS, etc. issues, then you're symptomatic. And now you have long COVID, right? My friend had to quarantine twice this month for what she said were 2 separate COVID infections. Remember, there's a difference between you testing positive and you being exposed. One is quarantine and one is isolation, but it doesn't matter. I think it's unfortunate that you have to do that still. I've had colleagues from Europe that are very anxious about visiting the U.S. because they feared West Nile. Well, there's a certain fraction of infections that with West Nile virus that proceed to neurological complications, right? So you don't want to do that. But it is rare and it's mosquito-borne, and you can protect yourself against mosquitoes. There are ways to do that. And you can absolutely lower your risk of being bitten. So I don't know where this is. Is it possible for a healthy younger person with no more comorbidities? And then, if so, what went wrong? I think something's missing. So I'm sorry, I don't get it. My coworker just went to France and is stuck over there due to a positive. This is exactly what I feared would happen to me. I was very lucky. I decided to get an antigen test because PCR is way too sensitive. And I wore a mask for a week and a half before, and I was lucky to be negative. But I think it's an absurd requirement for the U.S. because, as I said, there is a ton of virus here already. Having, especially people who live here, can't get back in is ridiculous, completely ridiculous. I don't know who's making that policy. I have long haul. I've been watching your videos. I'm switching my major from IT to virology. Great. What do you think of this new monkeypox? We've talked about it quite a bit, but monkeypox has been happening for a long time. It's not going anywhere. You have to understand that the press is now very obsessed with virus news, whereas all the monkeypox cases before never got reported. They're always a number. Rare. They're rare. They're in places where people live near rodents, which are the reservoir. And since we stopped vaccinating against smallpox, there's no cross protection against monkeypox, but it's really not a concern. Not a concern. This is absurd. This is a person who is not thinking clearly. He's saying monkeypox could be airborne because of all the reported spread. And so smallpox was airborne. It was a respiratorily transmitted, but it could also be fomite transmitted very effectively. We should all get smallpox boosters is ridiculous. I wish he would just read some papers instead of spouting off without knowing anything. This monkeypox has been happening for decades. It's never gone anywhere, and there's no reason to think it's going somewhere now. See, everyone now is a friggin' virologist, and it's really frustrating. As Amy would say, just get over it. Okay, I'll get over it. No problem. Pandemic is over in Switzerland. I didn't say, therefore, don't wear a mask. Everybody wants to warp my words. Why don't you listen? The pandemic is over in Switzerland. Nobody's wearing masks. Nobody's distancing. Nothing is closed down. And I think that's a smart thing to do because they're vaccinated and most people are protected against severe disease. They're not worried about long COVID. You can be worried about long COVID if you want. I'm not wearing a mask because I am willing to take that risk. The numbers say that I am well protected against severe disease, and that's good enough for me. And you are not unhearing. I don't understand what that comment means at all. In a past stream, I remember you saying immunity for respiratory diseases doesn't last that long. COVID-19 immunity wouldn't last more than 5 years. Yeah, so I would say, the memory. This is what we're talking about now, not serum antibody levels, because those contract within months. I would say that the memory cells are going to start to disappear in 5 to 10 years, most likely. But I don't know if that matters. We have to see, because SARS-1, the memory T cells lasted for 17 years. That was the longest they looked out in some of the patients. So I suspect that memory T cells are really important for protecting you against severe disease. The more I see, the more I think the antibodies are really a bit player in this whole thing, and yet they're given, front stage. So the vaccines seem to be really good at inducing T-cell memory, so it may be longer as a consequence. We just have to see. Now we're into low German. Yep. Okay. Morris, thank you for your contribution. Really appreciate it. Goes to the incubator. Are 2 mRNA vaccines enough? Enough for what? I think you ought to get 3 because there are some reports of increased disease after only 2, especially with Omicron. In many people, not in everyone. So I would say get 3, but I don't see any evidence that a 4th is needed for most people. Can COVID make my legs swell? I don't know. Hey, it's a clinical question, and I'll get yelled at for answering clinical questions. Thank you, Mr. Seaman, for your contributions. If carpenters built houses the way cardiologists do virology, the first woodpecker that comes along will destroy civilization. I pick on cardiologists because all specialists should stay in their lane. I talk about viruses. That's what I know. I don't know anything about high or low German. I tell you what people tell me, and then you correct me. That's fine. But I don't understand why people have to go on Twitter and pontificate about stuff they don't know about. It's amazing. I used to think Twitter was useful, but now how do you distinguish the crap from the good stuff? Do you think it's reasonable for people to wear masks in hospitals? We don't do that for influenza, right? You just do it in the operating theater or if someone has a known infection. Now, you could argue that because healthcare workers are so constantly exposed that's a good idea. And that's the one answer that I would say is reasonable. Yeah. Pax rebound is in a fraction of patients, 2% of people who are taking Paxlovid. They feel better, and then a few days later, they start to feel crappy again. They test positive by PCR or antigen. And it was seen in the trials for Paxlovid, so it's nothing new. And it seems to be that in a certain fraction of people, 5 days is simply not enough. But it's not resistant viruses. It's not an issue. My 71-year-old patients tested positive on rapid in January, are considering a 4th shot. They tested positive, but they weren't sick, right? So I'm not sure they need a 4th shot. Because if they have a 3rd shot and an infection, then they've gotten a good boost. If our immunity has waned, and Omicron subvariants get around it even, aren't we at risk for more severe disease? Maybe. We haven't seen it yet, right? This is what I'm saying, that so these Omicron subvariants are even more resistant to antibodies. So let's see if we get more severe disease. There have been some upticks in infections in many places, but there's not an uptick in hospitalization, all right? So once again, if there is an uptick in hospitalization and death, then yeah, sure, maybe we need to boost. But we're not seeing those data yet. So I wouldn't say we're more at risk. We just don't know, right? So far, we're not more at risk. I suspect the T cells are really working well to protect us. Thank you, Laura, for your contribution. Really appreciate it. Is there anything that can be said to anti-vax people to convince them that vaccines are the way to go? Well, I don't think there's any one thing. You could try and sit down and have a conversation with them and ask, what is it that you object to? And It has to be a calm conversation and try and give them good information. The problem is, as you know, many people who are mistaken about something don't even realize that they're mistaken, right? So you can never convince them out of it, and that's a real problem. Why aren't our T cells kicking in? They are kicking in. Whenever you get infected, they're kicking in. That's why you're not dying. That's why you're not going to the hospital. They're working. Do you have to have 3 to feel protected? Well, I don't think feeling protected is the issue. It's whether you are or not, right? There is a chance that with 2 vaccines, mRNA vaccines, you would be protected. There's a good chance. What's the number? Can't give you a number on that. Over 50%. But it's much better, let's say 80%, that you're not going to go in the hospital or die with 3. So you can take your chances. Yeah. Amy hasn't revealed details. Yes, she will as soon as she gets a letter. But we know she's going to Chevy Chase. I'll be in D.C., what is it, the 9th through the 13th of June. So if you, Vincent at Microbe TV, if you want to meet up with me and Amy, that'd be fine. Neurovirus, its genome is tiny. Well, it's not tiny, but it's smaller than SARS-CoV-2, about 10 times smaller. Any chance of extincting it? There's some evidence that there are animal sources, so I'm not sure it can be eradicated, because we just get more introductions of them. But we'll see what happens with the vaccine. It is disgusting to vomit and have diarrhea for 3 days. But the virus is not doing that on purpose. It's just what happens. Yeah, so Chevy Chase was a comedian, or is a comedian, and it's funny that it's a place in Maryland. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what came first, the actor or the place. I don't know. It's not my expertise. Incubator opening is tomorrow, 5 to 7 p.m. Yeah, Vincent at Microbe TV, if we can all meet up at some point, it would be cool. Swiss German is not Low German. I didn't say it was. People are saying that something is Low German. All I said is in Switzerland, they said we speak High German or Swiss German. That's it. Just relax, okay? Amy's not going to the NIH. No, you can rule that out. I went to a great seminar on bioethics. This is something that's important for scientists to discuss and also to help foster young scientists. Would you say something about this? So I have never had any training in bioethics, okay? So I shouldn't be talking about it. There was a bioethicist on the panel after my Richard Ernst talk in Zurich. And she deals with things like, is it okay to keep schools open if kids are going to die? That's a bioethics question, right? When do you decide to close schools because you're concerned about kids dying? When do you decide to treat someone or not treat someone? I think it's fascinating. I have zero background in it. But I'd love to have a bioethicist on TWIV and ask him a lot of questions about it. It's a really good idea. What's up with the increase in hepatitis in children? A lot of theories. Some people say they know what it is. Don't listen to them. It's not any one virus. It may simply be a matter of they were there before and now for some reason we're detecting them, or it may be a unique interaction between one thing and another. We don't know. We will find out soon, I hope. The American who had to learn Swiss German said even the Swiss people who were there, native Swiss, said it's incomprehensible, very imprecise. Words can mean a lot of things. Yeah. I read a new study. 2 studies show if you're vaccinated and got Omicron, you're better protected against new variants than if just vaccinated. I don't know what study you're referring to, but vaccinated, every infection after vaccinated 2 or 3 doses is going to be a boost, and it's going to broaden your immune response. So I'm not surprised if that's the case, but I'd need to look at the paper. Yes, you can get shingles more than once. Yep, for sure. And you do not want shingles except on your roof. I think that's great. Very good. Don't be scared. It's fine. I have to get a Shingrix. I just haven't had a chance, but I'm going to do it. Someone said I should go to CVS, right? After the incubator opening, I'm going to do it. I got earlier shingles vaccine. Yes, that one doesn't last very long. Studies have shown that the immunity contracts, so you should get Shingrix for sure. Yep. And that's based on the science. I'm not making clinical decisions. It's based on the science of the antibodies. Why does HPV cause cancer? Well, that's a good question. You should watch my virus cancer lecture. Would really be informative. But the story is viruses have to stop replicating in order to, in general, have to cause cancer because otherwise they kill the cell. HIV is an exception because they cause cells to divide that are not actually infected, but that's another story. So HPV has a gene in it, in the viral genome, that makes cells divide because the virus needs that in order to reproduce its own DNA. And sometimes that piece of DNA gets stuck in the host genome and everything else is gone. And the cell just keeps dividing, but there's no more virus present. And when cells divide over and over and over, that's a recipe for cancer because then all mistakes accumulate and you get cancer. Yeah, there you go. You should get 2 shots of the new Shingrix. That's the recommendation, with or without having shingles. I really disagree with Lori Garrett, but I highly recommend Premonition. It points out the failings of much of U.S. public health and recent decline of the CDC. You know, that's interesting because she was very critical. She is very critical of CDC because she said it's run by administrative doctors now and not public health people who should be running it. So I'm surprised she doesn't like it. Why is she retweeting the cardiologist? It's a bad idea. Sorry, I don't control what she retweets, but I agree it's a bad idea because the cardiologist doesn't know anything. Advocates are now saying that evidence shows that SARS-CoV-2 can hide from CD8 T cells. No, that's not right. You know, folks, it's really sad that so many people say shit that's just wrong. Unbelievable. And then people see it's on the internet and they think it's right. No. What types of cells are receptive to expertise? Brain cells, I think. You can be an expert without talking down to people. That's the problem. I'm not sure that the people who don't value expertise, they just think it's an elitist situation because they don't have it. And they think they can get it by reading one sentence from a web page. And you can't. To be an expert, you have to put a lot of time and research in, and you have to do critical thinking and analysis and comparisons. And so many aspects of contemporary life have made it easy to get around that. And it includes not just the internet, but the way we educate kids in college. It's become a business where you can't flunk the customers. So you make them feel that they're doing well. It's really bad. Read the book. Really bad. I'll post the link to the she posted it again. There it is. Just a few comments below this. Yeah, for the talk when it comes out. So if you don't like a question, you dismiss it. I'm always patient responding questions, but I do lose my patience. I get snippy when you say I don't get something or I'm doing something that I shouldn't, because I think about everything I say. And so it's not me liking a question. It's rather the content of the question is somehow saying you shouldn't be doing this. That's the kind of shit that gets me pissed off. Okay. So someone said, you shouldn't be talking about masks because you said you don't give clinical advice. You think I haven't thought about that? So here you can see the real Vincent. Yeah, because I do get straightforward with you. So, Paolo, it's not fair. I answer most of the questions that I go through. And you don't even have to do a super chat to get them answered. I go through each and every one. So, yeah, I don't do a super chat to get your question noticed because it's not necessary. Peter Hotez tested positive after going to a conference with MS. So what? So what? He didn't get sick. He got a boost to his immunity. This is life for the rest of your life. That's the way it's going to be. And how do you know he wouldn't have gone and gotten flu because you don't wear masks just for influenza? I don't understand why this is any different. And don't say long COVID. Okay? I'm sorry, that doesn't work. Thank you, Sean, for your contribution. And I don't know about the leg swelling. Send an email to Daniel@microbe.tv. He'll probably say whether there's any evidence for it or not. He's, after all, a clinician who sees many patients, and I don't. Did you wear a mask on the airplane? Flying over, I did. And I would say I was in the minority. All the flight attendants did not wear masks. On the way back, I did not wear a mask. And again, it was the same. A few people did, and none of the flight attendants did. And as I said, that's my decision based on the science that I see. Your mileage may vary. It's perfectly fine. I will never criticize you for wearing a mask. But don't say I'm wrong not to wear one, because I've looked at the evidence and I've made my decision. A nasal vaccine may not be better, but for a person that is averse to needles, it's a good option. We have the nasal flu vaccine. It is not much better than the injected vaccine, frankly. It's not as good. Many have tested positive, many are vaccinated. How close are we to herd immunity? I'm not sure we're going to have herd immunity because of the variants that arise and evade the antibodies. Now, we may have herd immunity to severe disease, death, and hospitalization, right? That's another concept where because enough people are immunized, they get infected, but you're still protected against severe disease. So I would call that herd immunity against severe disease. Did you read the article from the UA that genomes of modern humans show a genetic print that there was a corona there 20,000 years ago? Yeah, we did that on Tweevo a couple of months ago with Nels Elde. Go check that out. Yeah. Any comment on vaccine-generated spike protein circulating in blood exosomes? Irrelevant. Doesn't mean anything. There's no consequence assigned to it. It's minimal. It doesn't mean anything. And I don't want to be dismissive, but don't worry about it. It's not. This vaccine has been in many, many millions of people. If that were an issue, we would know it. My best friend, 6-year-old, was just diagnosed with SARS-CoV-2 positive, has a bad cough, but no pediatrician in and around Seattle. I find that hard to believe. No pediatrician in and around a major city center? Go to an emergency room. Go to an urgent care center. That's the way you treat illness. You go to a competent individual, right? What are your thoughts about the variant boosters? So it's fine to test them. You got to test safety and some immune responses and so forth. I think that we shouldn't just use them unless there's a call for them. What would be the call? Increase in severe disease in people who have already been vaccinated. So if we see the vaccine is failing to prevent that, which so far it's done very well, then I would say let's have a variant-specific booster. My children are upset. I'm walking around the house with my mask on. They're vaccinated but also scared I'll infect their dad. Well, if you're wearing a mask, you're not going to infect your dad, and he's sleeping somewhere else. So you're doing the right thing to avoid infecting them. And, kids who can't be vaccinated, that's a reasonable thing to do. I would say that's one of the reasonable situations to wear your mask in. So you should tell them the masks work really well, and that combined with distance is you're set. Now, they are vaccinated. I'm sorry. I guess the dad is not. So you're protecting the dad. My apologies for misinterpreting it. So you're protecting the dad, and if you're vaccinated, then you're going to be shedding for a short period of time. So it's going to be less than 7 days. So I would tell them that. I guess from your answer on fall vaccine, there's not much hope to look for if you're immunocompromised. Well, if you are immunocompromised, you would probably get a fourth dose, right? Or if you haven't gotten one already. So I think that's fine. Hubby and I are finally going to see a movie this weekend. We're good. 3 shots. As I said, you have very good protection against hospitalization and disease. You could get infected. You could get sniffles. You could get a cough. You might get a headache. If you don't want any of that, wear a mask. If you're okay with it and getting a boost, then you're good. As I said, I flew on a plane without a mask, and I'll let you know if I get sick. Stupidity upsets you. No, I wouldn't call it stupidity. I don't want to call people stupid. That's a really harsh word. What upsets me is people not thinking and getting insulting and feeling they have to be personal about stuff. It's not necessary. Let's have a civil conversation and talk about things calmly. But the internet does not foster that. This kind of quick, chat does not foster that. It's better in person. But this is what we have, and it's better than nothing. I would never call anybody stupid. I would say you're not thinking clearly, or your logic is somewhat flawed or something like that. I wouldn't call them stupid. Would you be amenable to a quick video on how to read a study? Sure. Nobody's going to watch it except you guys. I'll get 5,000 people watching it. But I'll do it. I have no problem with that. Oh, so you live close to Friendship Heights. I'm sure you're going to see Amy walking around. I think we have to return to life, right? When is Novavax available? It should be out by now. Daniel Griffin doesn't even know, right? Are we capable of using AI to create antivirals and antibodies? So you can use it, yes, to create candidates, but you still have to do an experiment to test them. And many companies are doing that, and it's going to get better as we have more results. So yes. Sorry. Bethesda Bagels. Wow. I have to let her know. Okay, I got a 4th shot in April. How long will it last? Longer than my voice. What do you mean by how long will it last? Your high antibody levels? 4 to 6 months. So you're going to have some protection against infection for 4 to 6 months. But even when the levels decline, then you're going to have protection against severe disease for years. Okay? So you're good. But remember, it's not 100%. Not 100% of people are protected against severe disease and hospitalization. Nothing's 100%. So 10, 20%, right? So just keep that in mind. Leg swelling. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of a clotting issue, but I'm not sure. You have to go back to Daniel. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, congratulations. You're in the city. Your daughter graduated NYU. Yeah. You can drop by tomorrow. We are open from 5 to 7. You can come say hello. I don't know how many people will be there, but you're welcome. It's a good way to put it. What upsets me is disrespect for expertise. Yes, I'm not being arrogant. I'm not an arrogant person. I absolutely help everyone I can. Not an arrogant person. So I'm not saying I have expertise from arrogance. I have it because I have it. It's just 40 years of thinking about viruses. I've got it, right? So that's why I'm doing pods, and that's why I'm doing this and videos and trying to teach it to people. So I almost feel that you can't be upset at my expertise because I'm giving it to you for free, right? And maybe that's the key. Maybe more experts should do that, and that would be part of the cure, right? A bad idea. Thank you, Shrisha, for your contribution. Really appreciate it. Tosi is recently approved for severe COVID. Do you know if Veklury, remdesivir is used in combination is being considered? I don't know. I seem to have some recollection, but if you want an answer, ask Daniel. Daniel at microbe.tv. How do you distinguish the bad from the good? I used to think Twitter was useful. Well, I think the first line is to make sure you have reliable people for the situation. A cardiologist is not about viruses unless they have particular training in viruses, and the ones I see on Twitter don't. You have to understand that most people are seduced by the attention they get on social media. Hundreds of thousands of followers and likes. And it doesn't apply to me because I don't have so many. Nope. So first, find out if someone can be trusted, if they're an expert in the field. Not many virologists holding court on Twitter regularly. I certainly don't. I got attacked too many times. Sorry, folks, not doing it. Because every time I used to post something useful, a lot of people listen, but I don't need being attacked. Hell with you. You know, I criticize people for thinking about transmission in an unsophisticated way. And they said, you're unsophisticated. What is this, name calling? All right, maybe I shouldn't have said unsophisticated. I don't think that was the word I used. It was a better word. But then, so the problem with Twitter is, Michael Mina posts nice graphics. How do you know he's right? Where did he get this stuff from? You need to have a paper that you can look at the data that's been peer reviewed. And so looking at a paper is the way to do it. The hell with Twitter. And if they don't provide a link, ignore it. You need to be really careful of social media because, they're there to get clicks. They don't care about the truth. Facebook certainly doesn't. And they show you what they think you like. What the hell does that have to do with getting a question answered? You can tell I read The Death of Expertise. Thank you, Mark, for your contribution. A Columbia alumnus. Cool. I had a bunch of my virology students graduating this year. Very cool. I gave you a super chat. The least you could have done was read it out or spent more than 2 seconds on it. Oh, thank you, Sean. You're such a civil guy. This is what I'm talking about. Why do you have to be insulting? I click on every super chat and I say thank you. What would you like me to do? Booster for 5 to 11-year-olds. Are they needed? In my opinion, if the first 2 doses were 3 to 4 weeks apart, then yes, you should have a third one. If they were 6 months apart, then I would say you don't need one. Thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate it. And I appreciate it especially if you don't get snarky, which you haven't. Why? Some people don't mind snark, but I do for some reason. And you could explain it to me if you want. Where's Amy going to work? She won't say yet, but it's, around Washington, D.C. Is there such thing as a plant antiviral? It's funny that someone came up to me in Omaha. Well, Doug, who sometimes is here, he came with someone who works on a mite that he thinks transmits viruses to people, actually. I'm not aware of plant antivirals. That's an interesting question, I don't spend a lot of time on plant viruses. In other words, what you're saying is, are there antiviral drugs to treat plant virus infections? And I am not aware of any, but that may simply be a reflection of a lack of my knowledge of the field. I know about antivirals against animal viruses much better. Okay. Yes, we discussed monkeypox. Sorry you missed it. Yeah, you're going to have to go back. I don't want to review it. mRNA shingles vaccine. Good luck. Shingrix is really good. If this is not better, it's not going anywhere. They have to show that it's superior. What do you want more? What more input do you want about monkeypox? I just said it's been going on for over 50 years. There are sporadic cases since smallpox vaccination stopped. Before that, there was very little monkeypox because there's cross protection. Since smallpox vaccination stopped, you now have a cohort of people who are growing up without any smallpox immunity. If they live near rodents that have monkeypox, they occasionally get monkeypox. It's not nice to get. It doesn't spread extensively. It doesn't become a human-to-human virus. You need a direct contact with a rodent. It's not going anywhere. It's not a problem. The press is exaggerating it because, well, you can guess, right? I tell everyone to come here for virus info, so I hope you're always right. I'm never going to be always right, and I will admit it. And you find other scientists who will admit it. Even Amy admits that she's not always right, even though I think she's always. I asked her today, are you ever wrong? She said, of course, sometimes. And I said, I never hear you admit it. And she said, yes, I do. But what I do, TS, is try to look at the data and make a conclusion. I know how to do that. So if the data are correct, then I'll be right about it. But sometimes the data are not right. So, I try to be, as Cohan said, consistent and candor, having candor, right? Honesty. Yeah, read The Death of Knowledge. Colleges now are life-changing experiences where you have to be comfortable, you have to have sushi bars, you have to have, and you tell your professor that they're wrong, and you learned about it in an hour reading something as opposed to their 40 years of experience. And if the professor disagrees, then you can go and complain and get them fired. It's all about coddling the students because they're your customers. It's become a business. and you can't flunk your customers. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I just want to give you facts and candor. Okay, that's all. Let's see. I'm sticking to masking in crowds. Sure, no problem. I have no problem with that. As I said many times, better to have a surgeon who knows how to operate than one who is nice. Yeah, a surgeon doesn't have to be nice. How do you lower your risk of being bitten by a mosquito? Some mosquitoes are out during the day and some are out at night, right? So depending on when you're going to be out, where the mosquitoes that transmit certain viruses are out at specific times. So during that time, you can wear mosquito repellent. You could wear long sleeves and no shorts. Put your pants into, if you're going to hike, put your pants into your socks. Yeah, it's not fun, but you want to not get bit. That's what you have to do. Or put screens on your windows. So in my hotel in Zurich, there was no screen on the window, right? There's no air conditioning, so I had to open the window at night. Didn't see any mosquitoes, but if it were somewhere where there are mosquitoes, that would be a problem. But if you keep the window shut, you're going to be hot. So screens, long sleeve shirts and pants, mosquito repellent. That's the way it works. Detroit has free testing and positive free antivirals. This is just crazy. No symptoms, and you're going to get an antiviral. I know a lot of people are doing that. Boy, does that go against what we should be doing with antivirals. Wow. Oops, we're at 9:56. Let's see. I would love a video about studying, I presume you are saying. Where to find you at ASV 2022? I don't golf. You will never find me on the golf course. I'm usually going to sessions. I go to dinner. We have a common dinner. And we're going to meet some people. There's... where is she? She made a comment before. I could look for her picture. Oh, wow. There's another person who's coming, and I'm sure there are a bunch of you. Oh, Doreen. We're going to get together. So if you want to get together, we could do that. So just get in touch. Vincent at microbe.tv. My friend, so is another thing. My friend says, I don't care what your friend says. I don't mean to be rude, but it doesn't mean anything what your friend says. Who is your friend? Is your friend an expert on China policy? No. He or she probably read it on a Facebook page or some other page. It's nothing. They have zero policy because they know something we don't know. China actually doesn't know things that we don't about any scientific thing, okay? They're behind in science. They have a lot of people doing it, and they pour a lot of money into it, but they do derivative stuff. But they don't know anything about long COVID. No. They have crappy vaccines. That's why they're doing a zero COVID policy. And it's a dumbass policy. They should have made mRNA vaccines. And you know what? They're making them now. So you tell your friend that's the reason. I've seen Vincent take what I thought were stupid or spam questions and make a teaching moment. And yes, and sometimes I can make a teaching moment. So the previous comment I just addressed, I didn't make it a teaching moment because I know when people say, my friend says, that's not science. Science is not about what your friend says. Science is about data and looking at it and figuring it out. And anyway, China has no particular insight, and they've had fewer infections than most other places. So no insight there. Thank you, Ian. I recall you being annoyed that Lex said something about speaking off the cuff. That's not always a pejorative. Rather, the statement has been edited and rewritten. I thought he thought I was just winging it and not thinking carefully and deeply. And that's what I resent, that I would say something that hasn't been thought about carefully and deeply. Thank you, Doreen, for your contribution. Doreen's going to meet up with me in Madison. Masking now when inconvenient to be positive or mild, like testing to board. Yeah, I masked when I had to get back in the U.S. I think that's fine. If we're going to have asinine requirements, I'll deal with it. Yep. Why did I get anaphylaxis after the second Pfizer vaccination? Because you have a memory response, which is more vigorous than the original, and you have a particular immune system that is susceptible to that. Not everyone is. There is a good explanation, Bobby. I've just told you. Their vaccines are not great, and they realize it. They're rushing to make mRNA vaccines. So before you say there's really no good explanation, I wish you would think about it a little bit more. I don't know. I'm going to write him and ask him what he meant by it, okay? Because I think he's being disrespectful. And if he is, I want to know. And if he's not, then I'll apologize. Yeah. Yale has a Coursera course, Understanding Research. Your Facebook friend is wrong. It's great. Love it. My friend. Has any study shown that a booster strengthens memory T cells or makes stronger and lasts longer? Yes, there are such studies. Longer, we don't know, right? Because we haven't gone out that far. How can you say longer when it's only been months since the last boost? But it does expand the memory pool of T cells for sure. Monkeypox. Oh my gosh. Why does Michael Minna think rapid tests the be-all, end-all of COVID other than he's trying to sell more tests? Well, they would have been early on, right? If at the beginning, before we had vaccines, if we had cheap, quick tests, you could stay home from school, right? Without having a expensive long test. But those were never developed. And now he continues to do that when, in my opinion, they're no longer needed. And you should look for, if any of you haven't watched my course, for God's sakes, it's on YouTube. It's free. Just watch it. You'll learn something. And don't tell me you don't have time, okay? You do have time. It's not an excuse. I have time to do things that are needed, and I'm really busy, okay? I would never say I don't have time to do it. And it's important, so you should do it. You can have maybe a private thing on Twitter would be cool, but you can do Slack, right, instead. You don't have to use Twitter for that. Hey, this is a good one. Antivirals. I like that. I have hours checking the papers and references. Well, that's great. That's the way you should. But I guarantee you, Peter, most people don't. They read it and say, oh, that's interesting, and they spread the word. And this is why we're in trouble, in part. But many other contributions as well. Thank you, Allison, for your contribution. Really appreciate it, okay? I've just given Allison 10 seconds, and she's not going to complain about it, I'm sure, as the other person did. I don't know what else I could do. I do appreciate your contribution. It goes to the incubator. It's tax deductible. Vincent is not always right. Amy is always right, though. Yes, that's right. Oh, look at Jeff. There he is. Thanks for coming. Jeff came to my talk. Good to see you here with my virology textbook, which I autographed, and he liked my talk. Wonderful. I just enjoy talking, and Ernst was the same thing. Is there any information to say mRNAs don't affect fertility? Well, I think you need to state the question more accurately. You mean mRNA vaccines? Because we all have mRNAs in us, right? And yes, there's no evidence that anyone who takes mRNA vaccines is made sterile because of the vaccine. Zero evidence. And if anyone says you that's not true, they're wrong. Okay. Bed nets. Yeah, that's another one. Right. If you don't have screens, you could do bed nets, right? But of course, if you're hiking, you have to do other things, obviously. All right, we need to wrap this up. I have to have dinner. I haven't had it yet. I know that's not so important. And my husband was an NYU professor. He resisted grade inflation, and some students were so enraged. So let me tell you my approach. From day one, I'm really passionate about my subject, and that takes many students by surprise. And then I'm straight, and I give them all the information they need. I tell them I'll help them. They can't get mad at me if they get a bad grade because I have given them everything that they possibly need. And so there are some people that get bad grades. Never a peep. Yeah, grade inflation is giving everybody A's basically, whereas no fail is very different. Yeah. But the friend is Robert Malone. That's great, Salvatore. Very good. I love it. Sorry, Bobby. I didn't mean to rail at you. Yeah, they're not great vaccines. They should have used mRNA vaccines. But, they have a political issue with other countries. And so they say, oh, these are made in the U.S. We're not going to say that they're good and use them. So now they're making their own. And that's why they have a zero COVID policy. It's a stupid policy. Yep. Thank you, John, for your contribution. I'm very honored by getting the medal. It's really great. I really appreciate it. What's the name of the paper that shows the data? I can't tell you right now. You have to send me an email and I'll shoot it to you. Vincent at microbe.tv. There are going to be multiple ones. Why is a PCR test positive and some patients don't have symptoms? That's a good question. Symptoms are what you don't feel headache, no sniffles. It's everyone is different genetically. We don't have an answer for that. It could be that some people have less of an immune response. The symptoms are mainly immune mediated for most viral infections. And so some people just have the controlled immune response and they don't have symptoms. Mentioned during the online course, the thing I myself picked up from me is to think about asking the right question. That takes time and is worth it. Yes. Please take time. Thank you, Kathy, very much. Appreciate your contribution to the incubator. Sometimes I feel relieved that at least crazy things like it came from a lab died off eventually. Yes, but it's not died off. There's still people pushing this. I see articles about it all the time. Unbelievable. Does the university pressure you to have a certain average grade? No. They don't. But the one thing they did do once, I had given out a bunch of A+. And they said you can't give out so many, like 5 or 6. You should give out 1. So I give out 1 A+ to the highest grade. I remember getting a 48 on a physics exam thinking life was ending. It was curved, yeah. I know similar hard genetic courses as well. COVID has been worse for pushing false expertise because it impacts public policy and therefore politics, which is currently toxic. That's absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Sally. And with that, I have gone through all the questions, and I want to thank you all for coming. 500 people here, 315 likes. Can you just hit some more likes before I say goodbye to you? That would be really nice. It's really easy. Dixon, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll let you know how he's doing. Meanwhile, folks, thanks for coming. And those of you who I snipped at, I'm sorry. Next time, come back with either a non-insulting statement or a well-thought-out question. And in the meantime, we should be back next week. So Amy is moving into her new digs next week in Friendship Heights, and I'm hoping that she'll take a laptop so she could do the live stream. But if she can't, I'll do it on my own. Now, I want to thank the moderators, Tom, Les, Vanity Nutrition, Steph, and Frank. Okay, I'm going to hopefully see Frank tomorrow. I want to thank all of you for coming and participating in this lovely discussion. We're going to continue this for a long time because I think all of you want to continue learning about not just SARS-CoV-2, but all kinds of viruses. And for those of you who I'll see tomorrow, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. And Vanity, I've met Vanity in person already. Yeah, you came to the incubator before, but many of others of you I haven't met. So meanwhile, folks, thanks again, and see you next week. Good night.